Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a virtual machine in VMware vSphere. We're currently logged into a Linux client, and we're going to use that with a browser to access the vCenter server. So I'll go ahead and open up a browser window. In this environment, since I'm using NetLab, as you can see at the top of the screen here, we're going to get some error messages and we can safely disregard those. So I'll go ahead and hit the advanced link here and proceed to the IP address. And this brings me to the vSphere web client. Now at this stage, I'm going to need the vSphere client's credentials. So I'm going to use the admin account. So I'll go ahead and log in on that. And this web client is actually allowing me to access the vCenter server. And that'll take a moment to load. Now, the vCenter server is really great because it's going to allow me to access and manage the whole of the vSphere environment. So we're going to take a look at how to create a virtual machine in this lab. So you can see here we're on the home page. And in the home page, we can see things like inventory lists, hosts and clusters, etc. So what I'm going to do is bring up my ESXi server list in the inventory, and then from there I'll be able to see my virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the hosts and clusters link. And then over here under the navigator, I'm going to expand training and bring up my EXI servers, and I know I have several virtual machines already created on here. So we can take a look here and we can see that we have both an EXI1 and an ESXi2, and we're going to create a virtual machine on here. I'm going to do this from a template first. So I'm going to take one of my current virtual machines and convert it to a template. So I'll go ahead and select the student VM 01. Now, if I want to get an idea of what this virtual machine looks like, I can hit the summary tab here. This gives me some idea about it. So this currently, this virtual machine has a guest operating system of Ubuntu Linux installed on there. Of course, since it's not running, there's no CPU usage or memory usage. If I take a look at the VM hardware, I can see my CPU, one CPU. I've got, looks like a gig of memory, and then 5 GB hard disk space, and a network adapter, etc. So you can see all the little details about this virtual machine here. So this is the one that we're going to go ahead and convert to a template, and that way in the future I can then roll out additional instances of this virtual machine from the template. So I'll go ahead and right click the student VM01 and select from the pop-out window template, convert to template. And ask me if I want to do this, and I'll say yes. Now it's important that when I'm doing this that I've actually have the virtual machine shut down. I'm not going to be able to convert it to a template while it's running. All right, now if we go back over here, we can see that we still have in our lab cluster, we've lost that virtual machine in here because it's now a template, so it's no longer available to run. We're going to use that as a basis for a new virtual machine. So I'll go ahead and select the ESXi1 server once again, and this is where I'm going to create my virtual machine. So now I've selected the ESXi server. I'll right click and then I can choose new virtual machine, and I'll select my first option here, new virtual machine, and you can see that the new virtual machine window pops up here. So if you take a look in here, we can see that in step 1A, select a creation type. We're going to deploy this from a template, but notice all the options. We can deploy create a new virtual machine, clone an existing one, clone a template, etc. We're going to choose that deploy from that template we created earlier. So I've selected that, and this is going to guide me through the process of creating that virtual machine from the template. I'll press the next button. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and expand training, and you'll see under training that I have that template. Now remember, this is the student VM01 was the virtual machine that I had converted to a template. So I'll be able to go ahead and select that one there. All right. And then I'll hit my next button. There are some options down here for customizing the operating system, etc., but I'm just going to select it and hit next. Now from here I can select the name of the new virtual machine, what I want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one Student VM-1. Right. And then I'll simply hit the next. Do notice some of the limitations on the name, specifically the characters. And it needs to be a unique name. And now I'm going to select the compute resource. So when we say the compute resource, this is the server on which it's going to run. So I'll go ahead and leave ESXi-1 selected, and then click on my next button. All right, let's take a look down here. Now from within here, I get to select where I'd like to store the virtual machine files. Remember, a virtual machine is simply a series of files, so I have to select where to store those. And those aren't necessarily stored on that ESXi server. In fact, you typically will store them on some kind of volume somewhere. So in this case, I've got NFS volume 1 selected. That looks good to me. Looks like I have plenty of free space since that was a 5 gigabyte virtual machine. There's going to be plenty of room on there. I have 17.87 gigabytes free. This is going to be thin provisioned. It doesn't look like I have any other option under here. And the compatibility check succeeded, but copying this virtual machine will cause loss of snapshots at the destination, meaning that if there are snapshots on this, they're going to be dumped. We'll go ahead and hit the next button. And you can see the little summary here. It says that I get to deploy this from a template. Here's the name of the template. Here's the name of the virtual machine itself, and the folder where it will be stored, the host, data store, disk storage. I'll click Finish. If I take a look over in the top here in the recent tasks, you can see right now it's cloning my virtual machine. We're at 40%, and that'll continue to count down. Once this hits 100%, my virtual machine will be complete. Okay, at this point I should be able to see my new virtual machine. So we have this Student VM-1. Okay, so there you have it. We have a new virtual machine made very easily from a template. And in the coming videos, we'll take a look at what we can do with that virtual machine as far as modifying it in the ESXi environment. Look forward to seeing you again.